And you see, one of the most arrogant assumptions that the West has had in looking at the world, and you mentioned Francis Fukuyama. As you know, Francis Fukuyama wrote an essay called The End of History at the End of the Cold War, in which he said, basically, I mean, it's a sophisticated message, but what all the Westerners heard was that the West has succeeded, the West has achieved liberal democracy, and all the rest of the world now has to copy the West, so the West doesn't have to adapt and change to other cultures or other civilizations. And as I say, in a somewhat cruel fashion, in my book, Has the West Lost It?, that Francis Fukuyama's essay did a lot of brain damage to the West because it put the West to sleep precisely at the time when other Asian civilizations were waking up, including Chinese civilization, Indian civilization, Southeast Asian civilizations. So I think it's important for the West to accept the notion that other civilizations will not become carbon copies of the West. I mean, that's the most fundamental thing that the West has got to learn to accept. And the strange thing is that even though the West preaches liberalism, now liberalism means that you accept different points of view, alternative points of view. But ironically, the liberals in the West cannot accept a world of diverse civilizations and of civilizations that are not carbon copies of the West. And China is certainly not going to become a carbon copy of the West because Chinese civilization is as old as Western civilization, maybe even older than Western civilization. So of course, China is going to be quite different.
You put it well. I mean, exactly. I think the individual, China put more individual responsibility, more to the individual right. You know, probably it's a Chinese social model, and that's the model that actually China contained COVID-19 because you had the quarantine, you had the lockdown, you had the people, stay at home, but then maybe sacrifice about a bit of individual right. But then the whole society got very free and very function so well. So this pandemic crisis has actually, on the one hand, proven that maybe the Chinese way of doing things may not be necessarily as bad as people thought in the West. Example, this year, I mean, it was 100 years of CPC actually founded. But then you see, China has already, President Xi announced that, of course, we have eliminated extreme poverty. That for the 800 million people, that accounts 70% of the global poverty reduction and fulfill the UN 2030 agenda, 10 years of a schedule. As Larry Summers actually told me at the CCG that this is probably something compatible to the Industrial Revolution of Great Britain, or even greater than that. But see, China never stopped. China now proposed another objective, is the common prosperity.